Okay. Hi, everyone. I think we're getting started. Thanks for coming to our talk, and welcome to our talk about Passkeys on Google platforms. My name is Diego Zavala. I'm a product manager on the Android authentication team, which we're leading the Passkey support. And with me is Chirag Desai from the Chrome team. So literally 2 years and 2 days ago, you can look at the timestamp there, Android and Chrome introduced support for Passkeys on our platforms. So I think it's probably like a good time to take a step back and think and take a pulse check of how things are going. So to get us started, could you please raise your hand if the organization that you work on already supports Passkeys or it's on its way of supporting Passkeys? Okay, wow. That's amazing. So first of all, congrats to all of you. I think you're leading the way in this revolution. And for those of you that are in the audience that are thinking of Passkeys, you may want to look around and remember, if you were able to do that, who raised their hands and learn more about their experience during this week. We're seeing similar momentum on our platforms. On Android, we have seen that more than 1,000 apps have integrated with the Android APIs that support Passkeys since support for them was launched. And users are already leveraging this capability. They have created more than 400 million Passkeys on Google Password Manager only. And that doesn't even consider Passkeys for the Google account itself. All of these users are already benefiting from a more secure and streamlined experience when signing in. Instead of needing to remember and type in passwords, they are just using their face or fingerprint to sign in. And today, we want to deep dive into the impact that Passkeys are already creating across different industries and the ways in which Android and Chrome are investing to continuously enhance the experience. So let's start with the impact. And we've been working with several of the partners that have launched Passkeys already, and they have told us that they are already experiencing the impact of Passkeys at scale. When deploying Passkeys, they get quicker and easier signing flows, which drives higher conversion rates, which in turn directly benefits their business goals. So for example, this is happening in e-commerce. Amazon has rolled out Passkeys to their users, and they shared that their users are finding it easier to sign in with Passkeys than when using passwords and codes. Similar benefits were reported by X, the social media company, who told us that Passkeys had allowed them to enhance both the security and the user experience, both of them at the same time. Current, a US-based fintech, reported that Passkeys were behind a 39% reduction in login time, which is, of course, a significant improvement to them, allowing their users to get access to their accounts easier. Same experience is happening in travel. Kayak, a travel search engine, shared that Passkeys reduce the average time it takes their users to sign in by 50%, and also saw a decrease in support tickets. Because of how Passkeys are performing, Kayak went one step further and eliminated all the passwords from their servers, making their accounts passwordless. And we see similar results from our own deployments at Google. Passkeys are driving 30% higher success rates on signing flows, and those flows are 20% faster than when using passwords. And we have also asked our users how is the experience working for them. And 63% of them report that the experience is easier and safer to use. Tomorrow, John Gromberg from Google will be sharing more insights into the Google journey on his keynote in the morning, so please check it out. Partners are also reporting that this is happening at scale. And so Roblox, for example, mentioned that only 6 months after their launch, millions of users had already adopted Passkeys, enjoying a simpler, faster, and more secure login experience. And 1Password shared that 1 million Passkeys have been created and saved by their users after they launched Passkeys. And what's even more interesting is that they realized that trial users that interact with Passkeys are about 20% more likely to convert to paying customers than those who don't. So, as you can see, and I'm hoping that I don't need to sell you more on Passkeys, Passkeys are already delivering on significant business benefits across many industries and organizations of different sizes. And to keep driving these results forward, on Android and Chrome, we are investing to continuously enhance the experience. So let's walk now through some of the updates that are coming to the platforms. On Android, we are making some updates to improve the user experience, bring Passkeys to more devices, and expand to new use cases. Let's start with the user experience. To simplify the user experience even further, we are enabling a single-tap passkey sign-in by merging what we call the account selector with the biometric prompt. That way, the user will just need to use their face or fingerprint, and they will be logged in. This improvement will also be applied on passkey creation flows, making it easier for users to create a passkey, and more importantly, helping to build the mental model of what a passkey is and how it works by connecting the concept of a passkey with using their face or fingerprint when creating that in the same dialog. This update will be available on Android 15 for all apps that support passkeys. Another improvement we're making to the user experience for Android apps is to show Credential Manager API results, such as passkeys, in the out-of-field surfaces. This will help users that may accidentally dismiss the Credential Manager account selector. So to make sure that those users will be able to sign in using their passkeys, signing with Google or passwords, it will be possible for apps to request that the Credential Manager API results are shown on keyboard chips or drop-downs when clicking on relevant input fields on the form, such as a username or a password field. This update is also available on Android 15, and apps need to do some work to integrate with it, so please check it out. We're also happy to announce that Credential Manager and Passkeys are coming to more devices, Wear OS in this case. So with this integration, users will be able to sign in with their passkeys, passwords, or signing with Google right from their watch. This feature will be available on the next Wear OS 5 quarterly platform release, and it includes support as well for third-party credential providers such as Dashlane. Finally, we are expanding what's possible with passkeys with the new Restore Credentials feature. As you may know, and I'm guessing most of you do this, users are upgrading their device every once in a while. Some industry analysts say that they do it every 3 to 4 years, meaning that between a quarter to a third of the user base will need to sign in again on their new device as part of their device upgrade process. To facilitate this process, Restore Credentials allows apps to restore their users' signing state without even requiring users to open the app. So how does this feature, Restore Credentials, work? So let's imagine the user has an existing device, let's say a Pixel 6, which is nice, but it's a little bit old. And so at some point, they signed in to the app. In this case, it's Shrine, a test app. The app, at that point, can create a restore key via Credential Manager API. That key is encrypted and stored with the device backup with no additional user action needed, given that it's similar to storing backup data. Now, what is great about this restore key is that it's compatible with the passkey backend that is already set up to handle passkey authentication. So all apps that support passkeys already can leverage their existing investments to use this new feature. And then when the user purchases a new device, like a Pixel 9, and goes through their restore flow, the apps and the app's data, including the restore key, are restored on the new device. At that point, the app can use the restore keys, again, without additional user interaction, to automatically sign the user back in on the new device, so that things like notifications can be sent, and when the user opens the app, they are already signed in. This feature is currently in developer preview. Let me know, or any of the Google team that is here, if you're interested, and we'd be happy to provide more details. Now, over to Chirag.
Thank you, Diego. So, hi, I'm Chirag. I'm a product manager on Chrome and Google Password Manager. And if the slides change, there we go. We can talk a little bit about passkey syncing. But before we talk about passkey syncing and improvements we're making to the passkey experience overall, let's talk about what was difficult about passkeys for the most recent months and years since we launched support for them. So up until recently, you could only create passkeys on Google Password Manager on Android devices. And so this is what the experience looks like on the slide. Here, Elisa is making a passkey on her Android device using Google Password Manager on Chrome. And that passkey syncs between her other Android devices, but no others. Next. There we go. So once you've created a passkey on Android, it wasn't available on other platforms. So in this example, Elisa created a passkey on Android, but later when she comes home to her Windows machine, her passkey wasn't available. Now this is unexpected for Elisa because she expects her passkey to be synced to her Windows machine, which is the experience she's used to using passwords with Google Password Manager or other password managers. So after a moment, she realizes she can scan a QR code to log in, but maybe her phone's upstairs charging and she needs to get it. So it adds more friction to the experience signing in. And again, it's not as good or as seamless as the password experience is today. So on top of that, like I mentioned, because creating a passkey on Google Password Manager wasn't possible on desktop devices, this meant we would give the user more options. And they could choose between saving a passkey to their system's password manager, like iCloud Keychain or Windows Hello, or saving it to a mobile device, or even locally in their Chrome profile. And this leads to a complicated experience for users because they don't really know the differences between each of these options, and they're not sure which one is the best one to pick. So for example, you could choose to save a passkey to your Chrome profile, and that means the passkey is saved locally to that device. And that means it's even possible to lose your passkey. So if you happen to damage your device or lose access to it, you no longer have that passkey available. And again, this is another way that the password experience was slightly better than the passkey one because passwords are backed up and available across your devices. So in September, we improved the passkey experience to allow syncing between Chrome on desktop and Android, removing a lot of these points of friction we just spoke about. And that means you can now create passkeys with Google Password Manager from your desktop devices like Windows, Mac OS, Chrome OS, Linux, and Android. And iOS support is coming very soon. And once you've created your passkey, it'll automatically sync to all of your devices wherever you're using Chrome or Android and you're signed in with the same account. So that's one way we've taken a meaningful step to making the passkey experience better for everyone. And now let's look at a few of the other ways we're looking to make the experience even smoother. So we all want our users to have passkeys. Many of you raised your hand when Diego asked the question earlier. We're all investing in this. So we want to upgrade our users to passkeys, but we need to often ask them to take action. And so what we're hearing from lots of partners is we want to upgrade users to passkeys without adding too much additional friction. So we're adding support across Chrome and Android to ensure that sites and apps can request a passkey on behalf of their user and automatically upgrade them to passkeys, improving the sign-in experience and the security of their account. On top of this, to make the experience even more seamless for users, we're investing in a Signal API, which will allow apps and sites to signal the password manager and let us know if a user deletes a passkey or tries to use one which they don't recognize. And that means that we as a password manager can delete that passkey and we prevent ourselves from showing passkeys that might be unusable during the sign-in journey. We're also experimenting with passkey and password import-export between password managers on Android, making sure that users have a choice about which password manager they use and can move their data easily between providers. And on the screen here, you can see passwords being exported from Google Password Manager and imported into Dashlane. I'll just leave it on to play one more time so you can see it. So here you select the password manager, you get a choice of password managers that show up. It says Google Play Services for now. It will change to Google Password Manager. And then you export your data, and it gets imported. There you go. And last but not least, we're also working to improve the sign-up experience for users. So we're working on this on Android first, and then later for the web. And what it means is users will be able to create an account and create a passkey at the same time in just a couple of taps, making sure that they have a seamless sign-up experience and also the best security available for future sign-ins using a passkey. And that's all. On behalf of Diego and myself, there you are, I'd like to thank you for listening to our talk, and we'd be happy to answer any questions. Do you have questions for me? Other questions?
Nick, you're going to help us with?
Yes.
Oh, cool.
We have some questions online, but if you have questions, please come up to the microphone.
Thank you. Can you also shed some light on you are able to make users don't go through a friction point and you will be able to create passkeys? What does that mean? Like, I have my password stored in password manager. Will they be able to create passkey based on the way how user preferences are, or will they ask consent from customer? How does it work?
You mean the auto upgrade?
The auto upgrade of creating passkeys in the background.
Do you want to say?
Yeah, so yeah, it's basically that, right? It's based on the conditional create spec. And so the concept is the user that has already some signal in the password manager that they want to use that password manager to store their credentials for given apps or websites. We can hopefully figure out a way to providing them the best technology to do that, right? And so maybe if they previously stored a password on the password manager, kind of the thought is like, hey, we can upgrade that password to a passkey without requiring further friction because they have already signaled that intent. And so that's basically what will be made available.
Continuation to that. So does that mean relaying parties doesn't even need to know, because today relaying parties doesn't care if you're storing passwords in password manager. So how do you, if that is handled by the generic passkey manager, how will the UI and relaying parties will be aware of it?
Oh, so the way it will work is that the relying party, in this case, imagine like an app, at some point during the account lifecycle, like most likely after sign-in or when the user is doing something related to their account settings, can call this API in a silent way, so there is no user interaction required at that point, and request that if there are credentials available, imagine passwords stored in a password manager for that particular username, those kind of, to create a passkey for that username on that password manager. And if that's successful, then a notification will be shown to the user saying like, hey, this app, now you can sign into this app in a more quicker and safer way using passkeys, and this is where you can go and manage them in the password manager. So that's how it will work. And if it doesn't work, then nothing will be shown to the user.
Hey, the seamless sign-up capability, will there be an ability for, I don't know if it's an SDK or APIs exposed to sort of augment the seamless sign-up that you presented to be able to capture additional data or attributes about a sign-up flow if you wanted to as an implementer? Is that something that's going to be a possibility?
So the question is whether an app can use an API to like validate extra data,
Correct.
like be outside the sign-up process?
Correct.
Yes, that is indeed the case. So the way that the sign-up API will work in kind of a nutshell is that it will request data from data sources, which could be like the Google account, or it could be documents stored in wallets or like other data sources available on the device. And then it will create a passkey, for that account that is being created. Now, both of those sort of API calls are available on their own as well. So, an app will be able to request and validate additional data from like wallets and providers of the digital credentials on the device as well, unrelated to passkeys. So that is already the case.
Hi there. Enjoyed the talk representing Visa here. Interested in knowing what are the use cases Google as a company is exploring aside from just the login use case?
Yeah, well, so we are in general looking after how can we assist users to make the most out of their journeys on their platforms. And that involves several different use cases, right? Logging in is one that is critical because that's a way in which users can access their accounts that many of the developers are providing. And so that's where we are focusing our efforts right now. And we think that Passkeys provide a great solution for that. We're also considering other journeys now. So like we started with sign in, we're now looking into sign up. We will be looking at some point in the future into account recovery as well. And there can be flows that are not related to sign in, where there might be additional support coming, maybe in a different technical way, such as payment authorization flows and whatnot. But we're we're thinking of that as separate flows. Kind of what is driving our motivation here is to make sure that users will get a seamless experience, and figuring out how can we work backwards from that goal to provide the right solution with the right technology, and making sure that we work with the ecosystem to deliver on that.
Yeah. I have one quick question since
Sure.
no one's here. In addition to that, are there any other learnings you've had along the way from an adoption point of view? Like, does the UI UX really matter in terms of psychologically convincing the users to sign up? Because when I heard Passkeys for the first time, I'm like, no, I'm just going to log in through the regular way. I don't know what it is. And you might have some savvier users who will go for it. So how do you navigate that journey?
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely a case. So we've been working with these partners and kind of polishing and kind of improving the experience. One of the things we've learned is that no matter how much, definitely it's a good idea to communicate and build the right expectations to the user about what a passkey is, how it will work and whatnot, and make that available somewhere. But at the end of the day, the best way a user will build the mental model of how a passkey is, what value it delivers to them, is by using it. And today, users are already used to using their fingerprint or their face on devices that support that to sign into apps, like many banking apps, right, support that flow, which is like a local re-authentication. And so that's where we are kind of expanding from that, something that users know already about, and building kind of the Passkeys mental model on top of that. And that's why the single tap flow that I showed, we think it's really important for that, because it will kind of very quickly help users figure out what a passkey is without further interaction, right? You know that, hey, you need to tap it with your fingerprint and you will be in. It's kind of an intuitive thing. So I think that's very important. The other thing, of course, is how in all the flows where the user is signing in, signing up, doing account recovery and whatnot, how do we introduce passkeys in those flows? And we shared something in the morning. We have UX guidelines in our developer documentation where we kind of suggest ways of doing this in a consistent way with the same language, kind of leveraging the same iconography across different RPs and whatnot, so that users get that consistent experience and build kind of the shared mental model of what a passkey is and works.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
I had a question about the reauth keys that you introduced here. Is that an opt-in for native apps to opt in? That's not like some kind of magical session restoration that can happen entirely user side? Is there a buy-in from the RPs? And also, is it an implementation detail that those keys encrypted happen to slot nicely into the sync fabric that the passkeys are also synchronized by? Or is there some kind of weird tie-in to passkeys?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So first of all, it is a feature that apps need to opt in and implement. It will not kind of happen magically. So apps need to be very intentional about wanting to use that feature. And it's different from the regular passkeys, let's call it that way. That's where we are calling it in a different way. That's where we're naming them restore credentials. And so the app needs to do some integration on the client side on Android to leverage that feature. Now, those restore credentials that are created by the app integrating with that feature are not synced by the usual password manager. So they are stored locally on the device, and they are optionally synced to the device backup in the same way that the apps can store backup data if the user has consented to using backup and there is end-to-end encryption available. And then when the user gets a new device, if they use the device-to-device restore flow, then the keys transfer locally. And if they use the cloud flow, where they can sign into their Google account and then they get their backup data, that's where they would get their restore key. But it's not synced via Google or any password manager. It's kind of a different mechanism.
So I have a couple quick questions online before you wrap up. One is Google looking into big screen passkey experiences at all, including Android TV and other media appliances?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Is Google looking into supporting passkeys across other media devices like the Android TV?
Yes, absolutely. TV, auto are the next ones in the list. Yes.
Excellent. And then I swear I didn't ask this, but the one-touch registration experience, does that introduce additional friction for users that want to use a third-party credential provider, or can you nominate a default credential provider other than Google?
Users can nominate a default credential provider, the primary provider on their devices on Android. And in that case, if that default credential provider is integrated with this feature, they will enjoy the same kind of experience.
And two more questions is auto upgrade for passkeys live today?
Not yet. We are aiming to have that available in H1 of next year. No hard commitments, though.
Okay.
So we'll announce it whenever it's ready to be integrated with.
Good caveat.
And finally, is there any privacy concern around creating passkeys in the background without user involvement or user consent? Usually passkeys are created by asking a client to validate through UV or PIN. This goes around that.
Yeah, so there is, password managers should only allow this passkey creation action or event to work if the user has consented in a kind of very explicit way in introducing this. The most basic thing that can happen is if there is a password saved in that password manager. But there could be potentially down the road other ways of triggering user consent. But yes, there needs to be a user confirmation that they want indeed to use this.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much for your time. That was fantastic.
Thank you all.